Thank you, Wayne. Now we'll pass it on to Dr. Michael Cotter, I guess.
Yep. Okay, thank you. I've got the microphone, yeah? Yeah, I've got the bullhorn. I'm Michael Cotter. I've been teaching for a considerable time, mostly in primary schools and universities. There was a time when, at the end of my secondary career, I didn't do very well at the Leaving Certificate. I did unexpectedly badly, and I was looking down the barrel of repeating the Leaving Certificate to try to get myself some kind of purchase on the workforce. And that was in 1960, so there are some considerable differences between 2015 and 1960, and God knows how kids these days can have any degree of hope given the circumstances in which governments largely have placed them. I think this is part of a very broad question of what sort of society we would like to have. You know, I've had some association with the post-secondary education system. While I was doing my honours year at university as a late maturer, I taught a year of matriculation English in a technical college. There were no TAFEs then. The technical college was Leederville Technical College in Western Australia. And it was a place of learning, and I'm not exaggerating. It was a place where learning was prided, where I had all sorts of people in my class who were, first of all, just interested in doing something with their lives apart from watching telly. There were also people who were looking for promotion at work. They were going to increase the qualifications they had. And those people all went on to pass matriculation English, as it was called. And, you know, I guess that a lot of what they got was near free education. I guess this was at the time when Kim Beazley Senior was the federal minister. I really wonder now, in view of some of the things I'm going to say, how it can be possible for people to mature and grow and feel valued in our culture. Because I think what's happened is that we've started to develop quite a different culture in Australia, and it begins for me in the Howard years, when it was the idea of collective activity or the idea of a society was being poo-pooed by Margaret Thatcher, who said there is no such thing. I wonder how she got her education. I wonder how, as a person from the working poor, she, apart from having a few brains and getting educational opportunities, how she could have got where she got. And I guess one of the things you see, even on bumper stickers these days, is if you can read this, thank a teacher. And I guess she didn't thank her teachers particularly, because what she did was sack a lot of them. And so I've come to say that I'm working outside the TAFE system, but I've consulted with friends who do work in there. And I'm also working from the background of my union, where much discussion over the last few years has been given to the agenda of Conservative governments, even, I'm ashamed to say, Conservative governments of the Labor persuasion. And so, you know, I'd like to say that the instruction and the growth of our society is in very dodgy, profit-seeking hands, and that has been the agenda of a number of governments, state and federal. Who can forget Jeff Kennett? Who can forget the kinds of extremes to which he went? And that was just the beginning, because now we have, I'll quote a few statistics from one of the institutes, one of the TAFE colleges, one of the institutes who spoke with me over the weekend. At that institute, I'm not going to name it, there is an award review, and I think that this would apply to all institutes. The award review has come up with the notion that the TAFE sector ought to do something to contribute to budget crisis, and the contribution that they seek is pretty massive. For instance, they have been offered in their award review, and you know when the Conservatives use the word review, they mean get rid of. Anyway, in their award review, they're now being offered or insulted with the figure of 2.5%. 2.5%, and in 5 years another 2.5%. And this is outrageous when you consider it against the cost of living and against ordinary wage rises in conservative but private enterprises. For part-time teachers, as part of this new award, they will lose any pay for activities that that are involved in their job but take place outside classrooms. So any preparation time and any assessment time that they are engaged in, they will not be paid for. They have lost 6 hours and 20 minutes per week. These are part-time teachers on their withdrawal of related duties funding. For 20 hours a week, they have to teach a full program, and that is the full program. And they, I guess if they're part-timers, they make pro rata losses. And I don't guess, I know. The full-time teachers lose what at present is necessary to the professionalism of their work, which is 5 non-teaching hours in the week's work. They will not be given paid for those hours, and those are all concerned with all kinds of matters to do with the preparation and the assessment of the effects of the teaching they do. But then, who does that work if they're not being paid to do it, and if they don't do it because they're not being paid? This is a pretty unusual situation. Well, not so unusual, I guess. We can go back to the pre-reform bill of 1832, and we probably can make quite a decent comparison. The full-time lecturers are involved for 5 weeks of the year in non-teaching duties. They will be liaising with trade firms and with other employers for the placement of their students. They'll be liaising with those people. They need that time. They are involved in the trade sector, in the maintenance of equipment. They need to supervise that. And my source had a rather dark idea that they may be required to do the maintenance. And of course then there's the assessments. All of those 5 weeks contain those activities. And if they are not being paid to do that work, who is going to do that work? You can see that what I'm describing is a deterioration of conditions and a deterioration of the quality of what is being offered. There are many people who really struggle to meet the cost of that, but I'll say some more of that later. What my source said to me was one of the large problems he had was to accept the validity of a scheme which typical H.G. Wells or Aldous Huxley style is called smart and skilled. And this is the doctrine that runs all of this abandonment of state government and Commonwealth government abandoning their responsibilities. They have 11 institutes around the state, and instead of every one of them being governed centrally, these institutes all carry very high levels of executive staff, which adds to the actual cost of maintaining the institute system. So what I'm suggesting is that we listen to my source and realise that if we had one unit for each discipline, fewer within the system, would be rather better off. Smart and skilled results in poor instruction, less funding, to deliver the same as they had 2 years ago with more funding. Smart and skilled means that the students pay for their instructions. The staff have to deliver more units faster to stay within budget. And so inevitably that represents a loss of quality in instruction and in some places, increased staff sizes. Sometimes the increase in class numbers and the increase in class sizes results in quite dangerous situations from a workplace health and safety point of view. It's important to recognise that when people are working in a trade area, which I never have, but I've been reliably informed, has to have a minimal number of people working, and so that they can be, the apprentices can be supervised carefully and properly, and so that the instructor can be clear of what every one of those people is doing at any given time. Anybody here who's a tradesman, tradeswoman, will know what I'm talking about. Now, that sounds pretty crook. But on June the 3rd, an inquiry was launched into vocational education, and that inquiry is an opportunity which I hope someone will take up in government to let New South Wales politicians know that the community values TAFE, and to share the impacts of smart and skilled on TAFE and vocational education so that people will reject it. TAFE in New South Wales is on the brink. The New South Wales Treasurer handed down the state's budget on Tuesday, a couple of Tuesdays ago now. The budget did not contain good news for TAFE. In summary, the budget demonstrated a huge loss in student numbers, and why not? A cut of over 7% in guaranteed government funding, 2,500 teaching and support positions cut since 2012. This inquiry could really be the hope of the future for TAFE. But under Smart and Skilled, the loss of secure funds to TAFE is in sharp contrast to the increase in funding that has been shifted to private, for-profit suppliers. These providers can operate, they don't even need a building to operate from. They can hire a room, they can, well, I heard it said, they can do it out of the boot of their car. They are not providing the proper facilities that people need to be educated properly. This inquiry We have a Senate inquiry report into the funding of vocational education on the 16th of October, which showed that vocational education training shows all the more reason why the New South Wales government should start reinvesting in TAFE. The TAFE TA has really been pushing this very hard for a couple of years. I know I've been around for it. But it's fallen on deaf ears, all of the appeals on this basis. The New South Wales government should stop the closure of colleges, the cutting off of courses and the increases in TAFE fees, according to the President of the New South Wales Teachers Federation, Maury Mulheron. And the state governments have moved towards contestable funding models, as politely called, for vocational education and training. The funds have been channelled to private providers at the expense of TAFE colleges. I'm not sure what you think about your taxes being used for that. Australian Education Union Federal TAFE President Pat Forward said, if the quality, capacity and experience in TAFE are lost, the standards of vocational training in Australia will fall. So I think on that happy note, I might finish there and pass it on to my colleague on my left.